has addressed the United Nations General Assembly. In his address, Yunus has stated that there is no alternative to regional cooperation among neighbours except for shared development. He's called for the revival of the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, stressing upon collaboration based on mutual respect, transparency and shared prosperity. In fact, outside the UN headquarters, protests accompanied his arrival, with supporters of former Prime Minister of Bangladesh Sheikh Hasina demonstrating against the interim leader. I'm being joined by our correspondent Thomas Portes, who is currently in New York City tracking all of these developments. He's in fact spoken to the chairperson for the Center for Non-Resident Bangladeshis, MS Shekil Chaudhry. Let's in fact take a look at this conversation.
Hello and welcome. You are watching NewsX World and I am joined by
MS Shekil Chaudhry, Chairperson, Center for Non-Resident Bangladeshis Worldwide.
It's a pleasure to have you on the program. And of course, we are here in New York City for the United Nations General Assembly. Bangladesh is here being represented by Interim President Muhammad Yunus. What is the importance of Bangladesh being here at the United Nations General Assembly, and what does it hope to push forward?
Thank you very much. It's a nice question you raised here. We, Bangladesh, after 2024, came in a new shape, and our young generations has given a new hope to change the equal relations between the countries, and the people in the country should be equally treated. So that's why they have started a new journey, and we, the senior citizens and the interim government is helping to materialize these things. And we are in the UNGA to say the whole world, everyone should have the relation with equal dignity and respect. Not like this, you are big and I am so small. That's not the question. Question is you are a human being, we are a human being. You are a nation, we are a nation. You are an independent country, we are an independent country. So all should have respect for each other. And that's why we can develop our countries and prosperities. And that will also secure the security of the countries between, and particularly with the neighbors. As neighbors should be in a good position and well behaved, well feeling each other, not to dominate each other. That's why we are here to show the UNGA our position and say everything, and we want a globalized world with peace and harmony.
Of course, and how do you see the future of India-Bangladesh relations? Of course, we have seen Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Interim Prime Minister Muhammad Yunus meet, shake hands. But how do you see, of course, the tensions still lie there? However, how do you see things moving forward, upwards and onwards?
Because until and unless you respect each other, I'm not mentioning the India is doing wrong with us or Bangladesh is doing wrong. For the diplomatic purposes, we should have the equal relation and respect, what I said. The Dr. Yunus, the interim government chief, is the caretaker advisor. He says chief advisor of the caretaker government. He is also mentioning, and we also think that India should have a very good relation with Bangladesh. And we want a good relation with the dignity and respect and equality. That's the bottom line.
Of course, and Bangladesh has elections coming up. Your thoughts on the political climate currently Bangladesh is facing? What are your thoughts, sir?
Bangladesh is very fast moving to a next election. Is in February, early February of the next year, it is declared by the interim government. We hope that will be a very participatory election. Participatory means the voters will be enthusiastic to go to the voting centers and cast their favorite candidates there. All the legal, official, entity-owned political parties will join there. Who have the legal right to participate in the election. We respect this. And all candidates should have the equal right to have their own choices with the voters.
And of course, Rohingya refugees, a huge topic to cover. What are your thoughts on the current situation? Of course, Bangladesh is now housing over 1 million Rohingya, 1.5 million Rohingya refugees. Your current views on that situation and how that could move forward?
We believe in our present government as well as the people of the Bangladesh, we want that it's amicable and this peaceful solution should be there. The Rohingyas, those who have their own land in the country, they must go in their country, in the world community, as a whole should work together under the with the line of Bangladesh, which we should repatriate them their own country, and they should help, extend help, because we have the limited resources. We cannot afford extra 1.5 million people in our territory. It's a small country, So we wish the world community will join hands with us to solve this problem peacefully.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Shifting focus to more updates coming in, Chinese Premier Li Qiang has addressed the UN General Assembly. He's spoken about Chinese President Xi Jinping's global governance initiative. The Chinese Premier has also in fact warned against returning to a Cold War mentality and has emphasized on the need to practice multilateralism. He's also defended free trade and criticized the imposition of steep tariffs in a veiled attack against the United States. He's also stated that a major cause of the current economic doldrums is the rise in unilateral and protectionist measures such as tariff hikes. He has claimed that China is ready to work with all parties to solve more practical problems and promote world peace and developments. Listen in.
当前世界进入新的动荡变革期，单边主义、冷战思维卷土重来，历经80年的国际规则秩序受到严重冲击，曾经行之有效的国际体系屡遭破坏。中国愿同各国一道，坚守联合国理想，弘扬多边主义精神，积极落实4大全球倡议，朝着构建人类命运共同体的崇高目标不断迈进，努力把世界建设得更加和谐、美丽。
Shifting focus to more updates coming in, we're now learning that UN sanctions on Iran are set to return back into force nearly a decade after being lifted under the 2015 nuclear deal. This move follows Britain, France and Germany accusing Tehran of breaching its commitments. A last-ditch attempt by Russia and China to delay the sanctions failed at the Security Council, securing only 4 votes. The sanctions will ban arms sales, uranium enrichment and freeze assets linked to Iran's missile and nuclear programs. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has told the Council that Tehran will never respond to threats or pressure and called the US and Europe responsible for burying diplomacy. The IAEA, meanwhile, confirmed that inspections of Iranian nuclear sites have resumed even as Western powers remain unconvinced about the program's peaceful intent. Listen in to what transpired.
As military attacks have failed to reach any of their declared objectives, the so-called snapback mechanism will fail too. The only solution is dialogue. The JCPOA proves this. Iran will never respond to threats or pressure. We respond only to respect. Today's decision has obliterated whatever remaining trust of the Iranian people in the promises of the West.
Iran has recalled its ambassadors to Germany, France and the United Kingdom for consultations amid rising tensions over the dispute mechanism to reinstate the UN sanctions. This move comes after the failed attempt by Russia and China at the UNSC to delay the reimposition of these sanctions. In fact, Russia's deputy envoy to the UN warned that reimposing sanctions could have serious consequences. Meanwhile, China emphasized that Iran has repeatedly sent positive signals and urged for diplomacy to remain open. Iran's foreign minister stressed that diplomacy will continue but will become more complicated and difficult, placing full responsibility on the European nations and the United States of America. With us on the broadcast is Major General G.G. Dwivedi, a defense expert joining us from New Delhi. Thank you for taking out time speaking to us on NewsX World. As I mentioned earlier, Russia and China did attempt to buy some time for Iran to ensure that the sanctions are not placed, but they have failed to secure enough votes. Earlier, Iranian officials had warned that they will scrap the agreement allowing the IAEA to inspect their nuclear sites. So in this context, what impact might the reinstated sanctions have on the IAEA's monitoring efforts, and will Iran follow through with their threat?
Well, the point is that this issue has been on the boil for some time. Primarily, the contention is that E3, that is the Germany, UK, and France now, they had taken it up that as far as inspection mechanism is concerned, Iran is not complying with the teams, or they are not cooperating with the inspection teams, and therefore they are deemed to be violating the terms and conditions. And in fact, we discussed the issue last week as well, that there was a proposal that in case the inspection teams are not allowed or they are not satisfied, then the E3 countries, that is UK, Germany, and France, they'll take on to pursue that these sanctions are imposed. Of course, Russia and China, which are the allies of Iran, they did make effort to scuttle these sanctions, but then the vote of count was not in their favor, and this sanction, proposal has got through. And in that, now in case the further progress is not there, or Iran does not show enough evidence that it is cooperating or not violating, then these sanctions will further come into play. And Iranian stance is that no, they have been cooperating and they cannot be coerced, and they only need to be respected and not forced down, which they are not cow down. Now, the issue is whether Iran is able to satisfy the inspection regime, or this sanction will come through, and despite the effort of its allies, Russia and China. So we have to wait and watch as to how diplomacy further continues, because in such situations, a diplomatic door is always open, and we'll need to see whether this issue has some resolution through diplomatic means, or otherwise the sanction will further be imposed, and that will definitely not in the interest of Iranians, because the economy as it is taking a hit. And let's see, wait and watch as to what further diplomatic initiatives are taken at the UN. But right at the moment, the sanctions are going to be imposed from the next month, because there was a window that was given by the E3 countries, but I think that window has lapsed, and therefore the sanctions will come into place, and we'll have to need to wait and watch as if there is any further, deadlocked on this issue through dialogue, or the sanction will come into place and Iran will have to take on the hit. Over to you.
Indeed, sir. And speaking of diplomatic channels, we are now learning that Iran has recalled its ambassadors from the E3 nations for consultations. Meanwhile, the French envoy to the UN has stated that reimposition of these sanctions will not spell the end of diplomacy. Iran has, in the meantime, leveled accusations that the United States and Europe have, quote-unquote, buried diplomacy. In this context, is there still any room for dialogue, or have these nations now reached a stalemate for good?
No, I think, at this time there is a state of impasse, but diplomatically there always room, or there always a window that is still open, because after all, it's only through dialogue such issues can be resolved. Because if you recall that in June, when Israelis and Americans struck the nuclear installation of Iran, then Iran had taken a very stern step that they will not allow any more inspections of the nuclear installations. And that's where actually the whole thing got into the tailspin. But the point at the issue is, while Iran has recalled its ambassadors for consultation, they have not recalled them permanently. They have recalled them for consultation to see whether this issue can be still diplomatically resolved, and it should get into a state of stalemate. And it is also in the Iranian interest that they should avoid further sanctions. So I am quite hopeful that there will be some movement forward and diplomacy still has a chance, and I'm sure both sides will try to resolve the issue diplomatically and not end up in a state of stalemate. Over to you.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for taking our time speaking to us on NewsX World. Meanwhile, viewers, we're tracking more developments. The United States State Department has announced that it will revoke the visa of Colombian President Gustavo Petro, citing his actions during a pro-Palestinian protest outside the United Nations headquarters in New York. They have branded these actions as reckless and incendiary. Petro, who was returning to Bogota at that time, joined thousands of demonstrators outside the United Nations headquarters, urging U.S. soldiers to disobey orders and calling for the creation of a World Salvation Army in order to enforce international justice and support Palestine. Listen in.
Estados Unidos, por eso, desde aquí, desde Nueva York, le pido a todos los soldados del ejército de los Estados Unidos no apuntar contra la humanidad sus fusiles. Desobedezcan la orden de Trump. Obedezcan la orden de la humanidad.
Colombian officials and Petro's office has not immediately responded to requests for comment. The decision adds to tensions already which are strained as far as the U.S.-Colombia relations are concerned under Petro, the country's first left-wing president, whose administration has severed ties with Israel and condemned its military action in Gaza. With us on the broadcast is Dr. Satoru Nagao, fellow at the Hudson Institute, joining us live from Tokyo in Japan. Thank you for taking our time speaking to us on NewsX World. What, in your assessment, are the implications of Colombian President Petro's call for U.S. soldiers to disobey orders? What implications does this have for U.S.-Colombia diplomatic relations, which are already strained?
This action proves that the influence of the United Nations is declining, because the United Nations shows a relatively strong influence in the 1990s when the United States supported the United Nations very strongly. But now the US government is right and the United Nations is left. So a political opinion gap between US and United Nations is a completely different side of the political side. So that's why now the United Nations lose influence in the international politics. Then this incident is symbolic to show such kind of situation, I think.
Indeed. And, you mentioned about the United Nations being a little left-leaning as well. We do know that Gustavo Petro is Colombia's first left-wing president. That's not the only country in Latin America with which the Trump administration, that the United States is at odds with. We also see it's at odds with Venezuela. So taking a look at the broader aspect, how is this now going to shape up ties of the U.S. and approach of the U.S. towards countries in Latin America which are left-leaning?
Yes, that is a very concerning point, because the Trump administration focusing on the U.S. influence in the American continent from the Greenland to the southern edge of the Latin America. So that's why the Venezuela is the first target, and send the military and punishing the or destroying the drug cartels. This is not a regime change, but at the same time, Trump administration show their strength in the American continent. So now many military officers, leaders, generals, admirals gather in the America, and they are talking about a very big project, I think. But in this case, there is a possibility that Latin America or other part of the American continent could be the target of the new military operations. So that's why if the Colombian president tried to stand as a front runner of the anti-US movement, of course, view from the United States, they will not accept such kind of attitude itself, I think. So that's why the current situation is a little bit concerning point. What kind of strategy the US government will choose to the American continent is matter of concern, and it will soon, we will see, I think.
All right, sir. With that, I would like to thank you for taking out time, sharing your analysis with us on NewsX World. We are shifting focus to more developments coming in. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has expressed confidence that the AUKUS nuclear submarine deal with the United States and Britain will move forward after meeting his British counterpart Keir Starmer. The Australian Prime Minister is on a visit to the United Kingdom, where he stated that both nations are strongly building support for each other. The AUKUS Pact, remember, was signed in 2021 to provide Australia with nuclear-powered attack submarines. At present, only the US, UK, France, China, Russia and India have the technology to deploy and operate nuclear-powered submarines. AUKUS intends to provide Australia with this capability in the Indo-Pacific region as well. However, the Trump administration is undertaking a formal review of AUKUS, raising questions about the future of this pact. The Australian Prime Minister is set to meet Donald Trump in Washington on 20th October. The meeting between the leaders may indicate the progress of the AUKUS pact. Well, viewers, due to paucity of time, this is all we have for this bulletin. More news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned on NewsX World.